we ruminate. Those thoughts loop in the head and they're unproductive. And we beat ourselves up. We're like bullying ourselves in our head, that self-talk. I never thought I was a bully until I heard the way I speak to myself.
Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 261. In this episode, you're going to hear from Cheryl and Jeanette. And Cheryl has been an executive for over 30 years, but she really found her voice. And she studied practices like integrative hypnotherapy, NLP, neuroplasticity, that's a hard word to say, neuroplasticity, energy work, belief clearing, stress, anxiety, and self-regulation, and cognitive behavioral neuroscience. So all of that stuff helped her to do her own healing and her inner work herself. And now she helps other people so that they can do the mind work as well, and the mind work necessary for healing. So in this episode, you'll hear from Cheryl. We talk about imposter syndrome, like feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're not qualified. And we also talk about our words and how the words that we use are powerful because our subconscious mind is always on and listening to the words that we say to ourselves. And also she shares how we can stop ruminating thoughts. Before we get to the episode, we are getting closer and closer. Words are hard today. We are getting closer and closer to the Financial Freedom Summit, and I cannot wait for you to experience it. If you are in debt or looking to increase your wealth, if you are a woman and want to be powerful with your finances, this is absolutely for you. Yes, men are invited too, but it's definitely catered for women. So there are amazing experts. I'm just going to tell you, they are straight fire. We have a forensic accountant, Tracy Conan, and she is going to come in and talk about how to find money in your divorce and also how to get past financial infidelity. Well, maybe not get past it, but how to handle it. What should you do if your partner cheats on you and uses money for his affair, right? Or what if he has a gambling addiction? What do you do? Even if you're not ready for a divorce, should you take some sort of action? So Tracy answers all of those questions. And then we also have mindset experts, someone who's a money conscious facilitator and really help you remove your money blocks. And then there's Tiffany Rinaldi. Tiffany is going to use emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping, and it's to help you remove any of those limiting beliefs that you grew up with, those beliefs that you were taught as a child and no longer believe them, or they no longer serve you. So she will help you to move past those limiting beliefs by using a technique called EFT tapping or emotional freedom technique. So this is going to be amazing. You will not regret it. This way you're going to step into 2023 feeling like you own it and you have a plan, not feeling confused or starting over like everybody else in the world, right? You can be ahead of the game. ordinarytobadass.com/freedom to join today. You will not regret it. Now let's get to the episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is Cheryl and Jeanette. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Thank you, Marie. I'm really excited to be here.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Oh my gosh, definitely badass. Yeah.
So have you always felt that way?
No. Oh my gosh, no. I grew up most of my life feeling not just ordinary. I mean, I wish I even had that word. I really felt less than ordinary. I felt less than, not good enough, Not like I measured up, like everybody else had it and I didn't.
Right. What was the turning point for you? Was it one specific event or was it a series of events?
I think it was a series of events. There was never one thing, but I think it was a slow roll for me. I mean, it took me decades. It was like this slow building that confidence, seeing my accomplishments, kind of working from the outside in, little things, and then saying, okay, maybe I'm better than I thought. Um, the big transformation, not just getting better, but actually becoming the badass and not just kind of getting there, getting closer. That came when I did the inside out work. So all the other things were outside in. I have this whole holistic approach and they were great. They were important and they helped move the needle. But when I really did the deep dive and figured out what the root cause was, or the root causes, because it wasn't one thing, why I didn't feel good enough, then it was just like, then I was on like the steamroller. I was like, well, steamroller's slow, isn't it? I was on the fast train.
So I can't wait to dive in and to hear all about it. But first, will you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, sure. You know what? I'm just, I am the girl that didn't fit into anybody's like box. I was pretty shy. I didn't realize that I was just an introvert, so I think part of that was why I didn't fit in. Um, and I kind of grew up and just said, yeah, I don't want to have the I'm not going to be the lawyer. I'm not going to be the accountant. I'm not going to be the person that fits into a box. So I'm going to stay open. And because of that, I was able to have a lot of opportunities. So, I did all the things. I was the beginner. I moved up in the corporate world. I had two pretty big positions in the C-suite, executive positions for two pretty big companies, but I've also been an entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurship. I was marinated in it. My father was an entrepreneur. So I was an entrepreneur 3 times. I would say this is my 4th venture, but one of those companies I had for 20 years. And even in that company, I was helping other entrepreneurs. So I've just been kind of in that world a lot. And I've also been in a world where I got to work with great women.
So are you still a C-suite executive or did you move away from that and full-time entrepreneur?
Yeah, I'm a full-time entrepreneur and so I have 30, probably more than 30 years of business experience between those two areas. But, here's the thing. I did this deep dive. I've always been interested in organizational health and just people feeling really good about their work. And so I did the deep dive into the healing arts and I'm an integrative hypnotherapist. And that simply means that I studied and I practiced multiple modalities of hypnotherapy. I'm also an NLP master. I did a clinical certification in stress, anxiety, and emotional regulation. And I did an advanced certification in cognitive behavioral sciences, really just to have a wider tool belt, you know, so that I could help people wherever they were. And I'm intuitive. I'm an intuitive. I have those gifts. And so my intuition kind of leads me as a guide with people. And that's why I think when we go into hypnotherapy or work with NLP or we combine some of these, I'm able to find those roots pretty quickly and help people dissolve and transmute and transform them so they kind of move back up through the timeline. And it's so interesting because they'll start to go up through your timeline and dissolve other things that happened as because of those limiting beliefs, you know?
So how do we start to overcome our limiting beliefs? What is one step that we can take to start overcoming them?
I'll tell you what the most important step is. It is believing that you can change your beliefs. It's starting with possibility because so many people think they believe that. But if you really dig inside, we are kind of stubborn and we get used to what's familiar. And if we've tried things enough times, we also lose trust in ourselves. Oh, I tried that before. I don't trust myself any before. And so we have to remind ourselves that beliefs are changeable. This is a growth mindset. So we think, okay, I'm going to change my actions. I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to change this or change that. If you go a little deeper and start with your beliefs, I have something in my book called the mind stack. So it's the way this kind of works is we start with our experience, and it's not so much the experiences we had, because we don't necessarily choose those. Usually we don't, but it's the meaning or the interpretation we had of them at that age and that stage, you see? So I'm a 3-year-old little girl and I have an experience. It's going to be quite a different interpretation that I have than a 35-year-old or a 55-year-old, right? And so we have this experience, and maybe the experience tells us I'm not good enough. And then it layers in our mind, and our mind is wired to make us right. And so we look for evidence to support that. Oh, you see, I'm really not good enough. And it layers and it layers, and that becomes our beliefs. That becomes our beliefs about ourselves and about the world. I'm worthy or not. I'm deserving or not. I'm lovable or not. I'm likable or not. I belong or not. And so even when there's evidence to the contrary, oh, I am good enough. Oh my God, I have all these degrees and certifications. Oh my God, I'm a badass. I'm out there. I'm doing this. We still deep inside, it's like this disconnect. There's this feeling. That's what imposter syndrome is. We put on our confidence suit. We go out there. We do the things. We learn how to do the things, show up, say the things, feel our fear and do it anyway. But inside, it's like, oh my God, we ruminate. We ruminate. Those thoughts loop in the head and they're unproductive. And we beat ourselves up. We're like bullying ourselves in our head, that self-talk. I never thought I was a bully until I heard the way I speak to myself. It's like, why do we do that? And our thoughts, and it's all because deep inside that little child, and then the older child, and then the teenager, the preteen and the teenager had this belief that got really weighty and deep and buried, and there's some shame around it, right? So we bury it more. It's like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And so we have to go in and we have to show that child. So the very first step you asked Marie is, what do I do first? What do I do first? The first thing is believe that you can change your beliefs. Start with the possibility. You don't have to make it you don't have to open the door wide open. You can let in a sliver of light of possibility and say, okay, I'm going to tell myself that this is possible. Because as soon as you tell yourself this is possible, you open the door to probable, and you can start that journey. Oh, and you can gain evidence that it's not only possible, it's probable. In fact, it's likely. And ultimately, it's destined that you can get past this, not through it, not just hobbling along and getting better, but you can actually get past imposter syndrome.
So what is the benefit? What is the benefit of examining our beliefs and really looking at them and saying, is this serving me? Or what is that going to do for people? Or how will it help them?
Well, we all have our blind spots. So first, what I'm going to say is, and I think a lot of people will relate to this, most often we are reactive, not proactive. We don't take action until something is really painful, till we really don't have a choice, right? But we know cognitively that it's better to be proactive. We look at other people and we think, if I just left that job 10 years ago, if I had just done this 5 years ago, I'd be where they are. So we know proactive is the way to be, but we hold on to what's familiar because our mind is wired to keep. So there's actually brain science, neuroscience to this. We create these neural pathways in our mind. And so we want our brain kind of, when we do things often enough, we do it often enough, it starts to create neural pathways. And that becomes the path of least resistance. But here's the thing. Our mind automatically equates familiarity with safety and comfort. even when it's not safe or comfortable, even when we're not safe, even when we're not comfortable, we stay because it's familiar, but our mind is wired for that. So what happens is we resist the very thing we really want because it feels uncomfortable. It feels scary, but it's meant to. We're actually wired for that. So one of the big shifts we can do, and I do want to go back. I'd love to talk about the shift, but you asked, why should we? It's simply because if we project ourselves into the future, if we future pace and say, where do I really want to be? What do I really want in my life? What if I didn't have any limiting beliefs and I could envision a future where I, for example, just felt really confident, really great. I was really at ease in my skin. I spoke up and I knew if I made a mistake or I tripped over my words, it was really no big deal. And, I went for it. I went for the things I really wanted. And I attracted people in my business life, in my personal life, my love life, my intimate relationships. I attracted friends, people that were even better than me or doing things. And I really celebrated it. I didn't compare myself anymore. And I felt really good about my differences. I wasn't always looking to belong. I was looking to stand out. And I felt really good. And I was finding other people like that. So let's say that was my vision. So now if I have that vision and I look at where I am now and I'm not there, that's my motivation. That's the why. Why would I even want to do this? Because it's scary and it's hard to look inside, especially when we've been suppressing these emotions for so long. And emotions are energy in motion. So they're not going to stay put. It's just a delay and they come out in one way or another. So they come out in health issues, physical, mental, emotional health issues. They come out in self-sabotage behavior. They come out where the inner child, the wounded inner child starts to act out. That's the outer child. And so why would we want to do this? Well, we want to do it because we don't want that self-sabotaging behavior. We're moving away from things that aren't really great in our life. But more powerful is to move towards something, right? Rather than move away from what we don't like. Imagine if you're moving towards a better life, a life of peace, a life of joy, a life where you're, driven. Peace doesn't mean peace and pause don't mean that you freeze and that you're boring and you do nothing. You can still have that drive and that energy, but it's energizing, it's not depleting. So that's the reason it's so, so important. But I do think we tend to get stuck because we don't realize that we're wired to stay in the familiar.
And I like how you made the distinction about moving towards something versus moving away from something. I think so often we start something new and we think of all of the negative, all the bad, and we start to kind of pull away or move away from it because we think like, oh, I can't do this. This is so hard. It's for somebody else, not for me. But actually, when you're looking at all the positive benefits and the ideal outcome that you want, you're more likely to move towards it and probably be a bit happier in the process.
Oh, a bit. It's like night and day. And I just tell you that as a testament because that's me. I mean, I did all this stuff and I'm on the other side. I married the guy the first husband. It was me. I chose wrong. I picked wrong because I didn't have a lot of self-worth. And so I picked a guy that treated me the way nobody should be treated, and I did get out of that. I did get strong. That was a badass moment, but it was 11 years of my life. And it did affect my son because that's his father. But now here I am. I am in the most beautiful relationship. It's the relationship I want for everyone. We are so peaceful. We have fun. We play together, but we really love each other. And we tell each other we love each other every day, multiple times. We hold hands. We just live like this life of such respect and love. And my business, I'm attracting people around me that are just doing things better and longer, and they're inviting me in and stepping up. And, I think I told you, now I'm a senior associate in addition to my Anjanette Wellness Academy, which is just thriving. I've been asked to be a senior associate with Barbara Annis for the Gender Intelligence Group. And that's just, I don't even know how to explain it, but I know it's happening because I did the work. It's happening because I did the work.
So tell me about this Gender Intelligence Group and what it's about.
Oh, yeah. This is exciting. Gender intelligence is a term that Barbara Annis coined. She wrote the foreword for my book, by the way. The book is called The Imposter Lies Within. And yes, there's a double meaning there. It lies within and it lies within, but it's silence your inner critic, tame your fear, unleash your badassery. And Barbara actually wrote the foreword for my book and has been my mentor and has become a dear friend of mine over the past year. And she's asked me to become a senior associate with her and really partner with her on this program she's launching. Her rate, all of her other programs as well, but my work, my well-being. Getting back to work, all the burnout, because I do work with burnout as well, and stress and the anxiety and people not knowing what to say. But the important thing, to give you a sound bite, because there's so much to this, the important thing to understand about gender intelligence is that it's not the same as gender equality. And gender equality is important. But what happens with the gender equality is we get the numbers on the spreadsheet. Okay, we have about 50% women in the organization. Okay, we're doing pretty well. We've got enough quota of this gender or that race or this or that. We've got our numbers. True equality is when we're treated the same. And gender intelligence goes beyond that because it impacts our ability to get that true equality. And what it says is that men and women think differently, and that's a good thing. It's not anti-men or pro-women, it's pro-gender intelligence. Men and women think differently. So as an example, men's brains are quite different in the wiring if you study them than women's. Women's brains are quite different than men's. So one of the differences is that from the front of the brain, which is just behind your forehead, is called the prefrontal cortex. And that's kind of our executive center, our logic and our reasoning. And the hippocampus is the memory center. And the women have many more connections from the prefrontal cortex, many more, to the hippocampus than men do. So that's why women remember everything. And that's why we tend to ruminate more. We just remember that thing way from our past, and it's really hard to let go. And women, like if you ask a man, what are you thinking? And he says, nothing. And we're like, what? He's really thinking nothing, ladies. Men can actually empty their mind. And part of that is that helps them to restore their testosterone. That's actually the way they're made. Where women, we really have a hard time turning it off, right? We're thinking all the time. Now, what happens in business is this. We are divergent thinkers generally. Now, there's a bell curve, so everybody's brain is a little different. But on that bell curve, most female brains, because of all that extra wiring, those connections, we tend to think around problems. So if you ask about, we talk about an issue, women will think about, 20 different possible outcomes. We're going to walk around the barn. We're going to think about everything that can happen, right? And men don't have as much wiring. They're going to just want to go right to the solution. So here's what happens. Women start to speak in very suggestive ways. So it's also a difference in the way we speak. Not every woman, but on that bell curve, most women, we tend to say, well, here's one way we could look at it, or here's a possibility, or what do you think about this? And let's explore that. And men take that as we don't know what we're saying. We're not being decisive. Let's get to the damn point, right?
Right.
And men don't realize how powerful that is in business, to be able to really understand before we make a decision. How often do they jump to the end, the conclusion, without having to look at all those possibilities and the things that go on, walk down those other paths, they'll make better decisions. So when we bring those two styles together, we get better results. And people are happier because they feel more respected. They feel more included and they feel more authentic, right? Women now say, oh, it's not bad for me to show up authentically as me. The fact that I'm making suggestions and I'm thinking through on these things is a good thing. I'm not being dinged for it now. So that's a little bit about gender intelligence. We went off a little bit, but I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems to have connected still back to the like to the self-sabotage or the ruminating thoughts, because you talk about how men are maybe not thinking anything at times and women are overthinking. And so then that could go back to like the ruminating thoughts or the imposter syndrome or not feeling like enough, but we just replay it over and over in our heads sometimes. So what is something that you do when you have these ruminating thoughts to kind of get yourself out of that space?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, let me just say one more thing on the gender thing, just to connect this to imposter syndrome. A lot of people think imposter syndrome is a female phenomenon. They used to call it that. Or they just think, well, women really suffer. And I hate that word suffer. I replace suffer and struggle with the word experience always, because our subconscious mind is always listening. It's always on. So it's much easier to change something you're struggling or suffering with to an experience. I'm experiencing that. That means it's temporary. But let me keep going. So men and women actually experience imposter syndrome almost equally. They just experience it differently. And as you start to understand the neuroscience and also the conditioning, there's the conditioning as well, but the neuroscience, it makes sense. So they just experience it differently. Now, ruminating thoughts. So let's just define what ruminating thoughts are, because sometimes we use terms, and I think it's really important to understand that when a thought stays in your mind, so we have somewhere between it's so silly, all these different the different data points, the research, but they'll say anywhere from 6,000 to 60 or 70,000 thoughts a day. At the point of 6,000, even, it's too many. We're not going to remember every thought, right? So the ones we want to pay attention to are the ones that stay, right, or keep coming back or loop in our minds. When a thought loops in your mind, it's not necessarily rumination. So sometimes, see, rumination is when it's unproductive. So if we're trying to work something out, like in a creative way, we're going to get that thought and different thoughts that run around it that will stay in the mind and loop a little bit because we're being productive. We're working it out in our mind. That's not a bad thing. It's when they're unproductive. I'm worrying. I'm feeling less than. I'm comparing myself. And it feels bad. And it doesn't make any progress. I'm not working it out. That's rumination. And it feels really terrible, So one of the first things to do with rumination is to catch it. Because a lot of times we're not even aware. So the very first thing is to catch it. And I would even venture to say, even by yourself, say that thought out loud or write it down, not on your computer, not using a keyboard, but actually with your hand on paper, with pen, because it allows your intuition to come out. And then remember that when you have that kind of rumination, it's usually your emotional brain, the amygdala, the primitive part of the brain that's kind of hijacked your thought process, and there's stress in there. So do some deep breathing so that you kind of really deep breathing and hold it and let it go 3 to 5 times so you get your prefrontal cortex, your logical part, engaged with your emotional brain. And then ask yourself, okay, what if this is logical. I know which part is emotional, but which part of this is logical? So I'll give an example because rumination can happen in so many forms, what we ruminate about, but I might ruminate. One of my big ones was always worrying about how other people were judging me. That was one of the hardest things to let go of for me. I got better at being less judgmental of myself and even less judgmental of other people. In fact, letting that go first is like the three-headed monster. But the judgment that I was worrying about from other people, that was the hardest for me to let go of. And I would ruminate about that. And when I say ruminate, it's not like it just happens in your head, does it? Right?
Right.
You feel that in your body. The minute you start to think, you feel the emotion because it's energy in motion. So for me, I'd feel it in my throat, and I'd feel it really in my heart, like my chest, like it was hurt, And so the first thing I would do is remember that your subconscious always believes you. It's non-judgmental, it's non-critical. Whatever you tell it, it will believe and it will respond accordingly. So the first thing I think is like, what did she think? And I think, well, the truth is I really don't know. I mean, she hasn't told me what she thought, or he hasn't told me. So I could think about it and worry about it and wonder about it and feel judged all day long, but I really don't know. And so I'm thinking, what if he's thinking, I'm a total failure, or I'm a total this, or, whatever, or she's thinking, oh, who does she think she is? I don't really know. She may be thinking just the opposite. She may be thinking, wow, I wish I could show up like she does and be so confident like she is, or be so authentic, or be so whatever it is. I don't know. So the very first thing I tell myself is, I don't know. Now, that's a hard place to be with, I don't know, sometimes, because it's almost like there's this space, right? There's this void. What do you fill it in with? So then I choose to fill it in with the good stuff. If I'm going to fill it in with the bad stuff, why can't I fill it in with the good stuff? So I decide I'm going to fill it in with, she thinks I'm a friggin' badass. She's thinking, wow, I wish I was her, or he is. So, the first step is that I don't know, whatever. And then with the judgment, the other piece I would think is, what if they are judging me? So I'd ask myself that. So what if they really are? Because some people are judging you. They really are. So then I think, well, who cares? Like, what's the big deal? Like, okay, she's judging me. Maybe she's going through problems. Usually when people are judging other people, it's because they're really self-critical. They're judging themselves harshly. So I actually turn around and I feel sorry for them. And I wonder what struggles, and again, they're more experiences, not struggles, but what is that person going through? Maybe they're having a really hard time and I don't even know. I don't know what I don't know. So I start to give that person grace and space, and I just let it go. And I also think about my own energy because, I just have today, right? I just have right now. If I spend my time in the past and in the future, I'm not in my right now. I just have this right now. So for me to manage my energy, I have to let go of that. That's depleting. I need to take a deep breath and kind of just get focused on what fills me up right now, what energizes me right now. What thing can I do right now to move the needle in my own life and let go of that? Because I don't know. I don't know what they really thought. And maybe I don't care. Maybe it doesn't really matter.
So what I like about this is it really seems like you're getting curious. Like instead of being judgmental or harsh on yourself, it's like you're just asking yourself a bunch of questions and getting curious about it, which makes it a little bit more playful and fun. And I imagine that results in more confidence in the end once you're kind of asking these questions and not being so hard or judgmental of yourself.
Yeah. And Marie, it's so interesting. In my book and also in my masterclass, I have a masterclass. I have an exercise, so I'll share it with you now. But it's exactly that. And I talk about it with fear, but it can be fear or doubt or worry. It's that trigger point. So I want you to think about two paths. You come to a fork in the road, and there's a path to the left and there's a path to the right. And at that fork is that emotion, that trigger emotion of fear or worry or anxiety or that deep self-crippling doubt, right? And the path to the left is the well-worn path. It's the path you go down. And the first step out is nervousness. And the nervousness, now every emotion, remember it's energy emotion. You feel it in your body. You feel that emotion in your body. So when you start to feel nervous, where do you feel that? Do you feel butterflies in your stomach? Does your heart start to pound? Do you feel like you start to get hot or sweaty? Do your hands tingle? What happens in your body? Just pay attention to that nervousness, right?
Right.
And as you keep going down that path, the next stop is worry. Now, sometimes I use the train because it goes so fast that it's almost like you go right past nervousness into worry. You didn't even realize you were nervous. You're like in worry so fast. And worry is never about what's happening right now. Worry is always about the woulda, coulda, shoulda, the past, or the what ifs, the future, right? So you're really not even here. But you can get caught in worry. And this is a familiar path for most people. And if you kept going down that path, you'd end up in anxiety. And if you kept going, you could go into full-blown panic, right? This is a dangerous path. This is the path to burnout. And it becomes very familiar, and we actually can become addicted to it. But that's another topic. We can become addicted to it because our brain gets addicted to stress. It gives us certain cocktails because it's painful, and we become addicted to that. We have to get off that path, and we have to detox. Let's go back to the fork. So you're at this fork in the road, and that first stop to the left was nervousness. The first step to the right is excitement. So if you happen to take a step to the right and you step into excitement, I want you to notice that the feelings in your body with excitement are almost exactly the same, if not exactly the same as nervousness. Excitement and nervousness feel the same in our body. That's energy in motion. So you get the doubt or the fear or whatever it is. And we feel, oh, I'm going to step over here to the right and see what that feels like. Oh, it feels a little bit excited. And the next stop is what you just said, curiosity. Doesn't curiosity feel so much better than worry?
Absolutely.
Right. And you take a deep breath here and you get into curiosity. And the next stop, if you keep going down this path, is creativity. And this is where I take a lot of people, especially in hypnotherapy, I'll take them into their workshop or their studio in their brain. Because in creativity, problems become projects. There are no problems. They're just projects. And you get to work everything out with your curiosity and your creativity. And that's fun. And sometimes it's not fun, but it's productive, right? It's like, all right, this wasn't exactly my choice, but that's okay because I'm here for a reason because I'm the person to work this out. And guess what? I can. And if I tell myself I can, I'm going to believe myself because remember, my subconscious mind is non-critical. It's, it's literal. It's going to believe me. So why not tell it a good story?
Yes, so good. So if people want to get their hands on your book, where can they find it?
Well, I know for sure you can find it on Amazon. There's all the versions, Kindle, paperback, hardback. I'm actually recording, possibly when your listeners hear this, the Audible version will be out. It will be in my voice. It is, by the way, it's 20 chapters, 4 parts. It's a journey. So it's from awareness to insight to alignment to integration. And there are 20 exercises. So the book is not a book you just read. It's not a book you just listen to. It's a book you use. You can go back and back to it. So I do believe it's also available at Barnes & Noble. I know they're setting up some book signings for me now. So Barnes & Noble. And I don't know where else, but I know that it's being distributed around the world. So you should be able to get your hands on it. For anyone watching it, not just listening, here's the book. So it's The Imposter Lies Within.
Okay, awesome. And I will throw a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So, Cheryl, let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
Okay. So you're in, first of all, I want you to stop fighting. Put your gloves down and step in with your power and your grace and your authentic self, with the confidence to know not just the suit from the outside, but bubbling up for you from the inside, that you can do this. I want you to see those rough waters just settling down. I want you to move the wind from the front to the back. And I want you to know that you're being lifted together and that the universe wants to give you exactly what you want. But I want you to now uncross your arms. I want you to open up your hands, your palms. I want you to take a deep breath. And I want you to remind yourself you're good enough. You are worthy. You are deserving. Your voice matters. Your voice is needed. You matter. You are lovable. You are loving. And this is your destiny, and receive it. You don't need to fight. You just need to receive. And every time you see that resistance, I want you to see it just melt away. I want you to feel the wind at your back. I want you to see the smooth sailing ahead. And I want you to know you are right where you're meant to be right now. Right now, that this is happening for you, not to you. And that you are a gift. As you receive, as you settle in and believe this, you will be able to give so much more because you will be filling yourself up. And by the way, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.
Go to Beers, listen to what Cheryl said. You're right where you need to be. If you need to hear that again, go back and hit repeat, or go back a little ways, because it's definitely important to let that sink in. So Cheryl, how can we connect with you?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty easy to find if you know how to spell my name. It's with an S, Cheryl with an S, and Jeanette, ANJANETTE. So you can go to my website, CherylAndJeanette.com. I actually have an imposter syndrome quiz there. I'm on all the social media under Cheryl and Jeanette. So LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Not really big TikTok, but oh, Clubhouse. I'm on Clubhouse. At least right now, as we're talking, Marie, I'm on Clubhouse every week in the Inside Out Club. So you can usually find me in the Inside Out Club on Wednesday mornings.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I'll add that stuff to the show notes. Thank you so much, Cheryl. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it. Okay, quick recap with 6 takeaways from the episode. 1, believe you can. Change your beliefs. Start with the possibility that you can change them. Go from believing that it's possible to probable to likely to desired. But it just starts with believing that it's possible. Number 2, rather than move away from what you don't like, imagine yourself moving towards a better life. A life of peace, of joy, a life where you're driven and taking action. Number 3, replace the word suffer and struggle with the word experience, because the subconscious mind is always on. Number 4, we have up to 6,000 thoughts a day. Pay attention to the ones that stay or keep coming back to you, or that ruminate or loop around in our minds over and over. First thing to do is to catch it, and then say it out loud or write it down on a piece of paper and allow your intuition to come out. Then do breathing exercises where you breathe in and hold it, and then you let it go. And you do this 3 to 5 times so your logical brain will kick in. And number 5, your brain can become addicted to stress. So it's important to find ways to get out of that path. And number 6, your subconscious mind is literal and will believe you. So why not tell it a good story? This episode was so good. Make sure, tune in on Thursday. You can hear why Cheryl and Jeanette is so badass. Until then.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future Spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.